Alrighty, so today we're going to look at the last 8 games as part number 2 of the review for match week number 21. Why the last 8 games? Well, yesterday, if you watched my review, I looked at the first 6 games and decided to go in complete reverse order where I look at the West Coast game first and made my way eventually to some of the Central Time games. Well, now we are going to make our way in terms of looking at the Central Time Zone games, and then eventually we're going to go all the way back to looking at the last couple of games that starts in the busy 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific window. But with that being said, let us actually first talk about our first game, which is Nashville and NYCFC. And how many times I've mentioned the new interim head coach boost is definitely a real thing. I mean, we have seen time and time again whenever a new interim head coach steps in, or even a new head coach steps in a team, it just give a huge boost of confidence for the team, and that the team seems to go on a bit of a run before it does wear it off. So for Nashville, of course, ever since Gary Smith left, it seems like they're doing very well under their new interim head coach. And now they have got themselves all the way up to seventh place with a gritty 1-0 win against NYCFC. Now, early on, Boy was in on goal there, and he actually went around the keeper and had an empty net to shoot, and he puts that one wide. Yeah, that is one that is going to go down as one of the worst misses we've seen this season. Keep in mind, Tyler Boyd, as much as he has already scored for Nashville this season, all of them came in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So he's been kind of snake bitten this season in league plays. He's basically just not allowed to score a goal, and that's kind of an example of it. So that being said, the first shot for NYCFC, Risa puts it over from close. Mukhtar then puts it over from close before Surridge would heads it onto the post from close range. So Nashville was definitely very close of getting the opening goal. They had all the momentum up to this point and were pushing for the opener. Freeze would then deny Mukhtar, but he actually spills this one, and he just able to gather this one before there was any Nashville player to get the rebound, and it's a good thing he did that, because yeah, that wouldn't have been a great moment for Matt Freeze. Though that being said, this was not a great moment for him either in the 23rd minute. As remember, I mentioned Tyler Boyd has not scored a goal so far in league play for Nashville. It finally happened. So he scored here from Surridge to make it 1-0 in favor of Nashville, kind of redeem himself after having one of the worst misses we've seen this season. Though again, I talk about Matt Freeze, with the caliber that he is and the standards that he set this season. Yeah, that is one that he wants to have back, because it was a pretty good header, but ones that Freeze probably should have done better and should have just parried that one out. But Nashville didn't care. They were leading 1-0. We then go for a period of time where not much really happened. The next chance came in the first minute of stoppage time when Parks heads it wide from close. But we do head to halftime with Nashville leading 1-0. In the second half, NYCFC, I thought they were on the front foot, but they would clearly struggling, creating some clear cut chances up to this point. Though Jones did had a shot that was deflected and goes wide before Surridge would hits one right to Freeze. Rodriguez then fires it wide from close in the 73rd minute before O'Toole puts it wide from long range. And then Willis actually had to deny Morales, but that wouldn't have counted either way, as the flag, of course, came up. In fact, that would actually be the only time where I mentioned Willis and him making a save here, because NYCFC would actually finish with no shot on goal in this game, despite the fact that, as you maybe can see here, they had 15 shots in this one, and Nashville was kind of doing what they usually do when they have a 1-0 lead. They're going to go with that low block bunker shape, that bend but don't break kind of defense, and trying to hold on for a massive 3 points against a little bit of an unrelentless pressure there from NYCFC. And in the end, it worked, as in the end, Nashville walks away with a 1-0 win over NYCFC. The shots in this one, 8 shots to the 15 that NYCFC had. But like I said, none of them was on target. And that's probably the most shot I've seen a team has put, and yet they failed to put any on target. In fact, only 4 of those 15 was actually on target. 10 of them was actually blocked in this one, even though technically, again, the MLS website, not doing great math here. It technically should be 14 shots here. I got this from the league website, and I put the numbers exactly there, not just to show you that it's a mistake on my part, but just to show you how the league clearly doesn't know how to do math, and whoever keeps the stats in the league website does not know math whatsoever. But yeah, as I said, 4 shots off target for the 2 that Nashville has, 10 shots on block for the 2 that Nashville has. and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Nashville has in this game. So yeah, definitely a good win for Nashville. Again, they're climbing up in the standings right now, up to seventh place in the East. But for NYCFC, they're going the wrong way. I mean, after a great run that they had in the month of May and even in the beginning of June, yeah, it's been a rough the last couple of games for Nick Cushing's side, and now all of a sudden pressure started to come back to Nick Cushing because again, I know the pressure was kind of off of him when this team was winning. Now I think it should be back on him now that this team is going through a bit of a rough patch, just like they did in the beginning of the season. With that being said, moving on in the next match, we got Minnesota versus Austin FC. So I heard a lot of people complaining about the referee in this one, especially with a lot of soft yellow card. And in some way, I do kind of agree. And this is not because I'm a biased Minnesota United fan, but I do think that I think the referee uh, was a little bit too happy in terms of his yellow card, and that include a vital moment in this game that maybe could have change how this game, of course, would turn out. But either way, besides that, yeah, for Minnesota, they really needed this win. I mean, they were playing a struggling an Austin side that didn't really play most of their starter. I think for UC didn't even play in this game for Austin, and they don't get not only a draw out of this game, but they don't even get any points out of this game. Early on, there was not much happen as there was tons of whistle and fouls. That would be kind of set the tone of the night. I mean, there was just no rhythm in this game whatsoever. It was a very choppy game and a very frustrating game, especially when you're rooting for the team on the losing side. But also maybe a very frustrating game if you're a neutral watching this. Rain did hit the first shot of the game, but he puts it high from long range before he puts it wide from long range in the 16th minute. And then in the 26th minute, this is where we have the controversy of the game, as Hassani Dotson gets his second yellow card in this one. And I probably should have put quotation mark in the second yellow card because that was a very weak second yellow, in my opinion. And again, not because I'm a biased Loons fan. I think even Austin fans, I think, can realize that this is a very soft second yellow, and especially the first yellow was never a yellow card. Like the way that he made that challenge, I think it was on O'Brien, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, both of them I think was Dotson committing a foul on O'Brien. I don't think either of them deserve a yellow card. The first one, I mean, it definitely didn't look like Dotson actually caught O'Brien whatsoever, and he gets a yellow for that. And then the second one, it kind of looks like more like O'Brien kind of ran into Dotson than actually Dotson fouling him. And again, just I think that's a very soft yellow card, especially after just got one a couple of minutes ago. But nevertheless, Minnesota were down to 10 men, and Austin take they take no time to wait to capitalize on that, as Diego Rubio would score here to make it 1-0 in favor of Austin. And yeah, Clint Irvin just kind of punched this one right to Rubio. Man, I can't wait when Dean Sinclair is back in goal in this one, because yeah, Clint Irvin is clearly not it in these last couple of games. Though he did make up for it as he denied Gallagher from a tight angle. Austin definitely has took advantage of being a man up. They were looking for another goal. Though on the other end, Sunbin would puts it wide from close range, and we do head to halftime with Los Verdes leading 1-0. In the second half, O'Brien would puts it high from long range before Wolf would puts it wide from long range, as I thought Austin was on the front foot again. Loons continue to look flat, especially on the attack. O'Brien would then puts it over as the flag went up, and he's probably fortunate that flag went up, because that was not a great effort there from Hodder O'Brien, especially with that much room to shoot. He's got to at least put that one on target, but kind of bailed out by that bad miss because of the flag. Fragapani then hits the side netting from close before Forgery, which puts it right to Irvin. And really, as the time winds down, again, just even though I didn't write it there on the notes, there was just so many whistles in this game. There was just no rhythm whatsoever. And in some way, that kind of favored Austin, because they're the winning team. They're just gonna try to grind their way to get a 1-0 win, and it seems like Austin started to drop their lines. The Loons were pushing hard to try to get the equalizer. Rosales would then hits one right to Stuver before Sunbin hits one into the wonder wall in the near post, and then in the fourth minute of stoppage time, Sunbin would skies it from close range. And despite Minnesota did have some late pressure to try and get a point out of this game, they don't. They lose this one. It's only the second home loss this season at Allianz Field. And the shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 9 that Austin had, 3 shots on goal compared to just 1 that Minnesota had, 6 shots off target compared to 5 that Austin had, 1 shot on block compared to 5 that Minnesota has, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Minnesota has in this game. It's an ugly, ugly game to watch. Not only in a Loon's perspective, but just in a neutral perspective as well, because there's just no rhythm whatsoever in this game. But again, I'm gonna reiterate what I keep saying about Minnesota doing this stretch where they're missing players due to Copa America and injuries. They need reinforcement badly. I mean, if there is teams that desperately need reinforcement, especially desperately hoping the transfer window will open, which I think I heard the window is actually opening on 4th of July of all days. Minnesota desperately need those reinforcement because it is clear that the depth of this team is not there whatsoever, and they're basically paying the price because of it, and we'll see whether or not they can survive until then and not just completely fall all off the map. I mean, they definitely are starting to fall off the map with the way that they are definitely tumbling down the standings. And for Austin, I mean, they'll take this win. This feels like a very Austin FC kind of win where they don't play well. They at times get outshot in terms of the XG. But hey, that's what Josh Wolf team likes to do, and that's how they get points, and that's exactly what they did in this game as well. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is the Union and Charlotte FC, and yeah, the misery continue for the Philadelphia Union. I mean, talk about a team that I mention every week that has a big decision that they have to make in the summer transfer window to tear it down or just keep it going and hope that they can get themselves back into contention in the playoffs. I think they're definitely heading into that tear it down moment because my word, this has just been a brutal run for Jim Curtin's side. I don't think I've seen the Union gone through this bad of a run since before this team started to become a dominant force in the East pre 2018. Now, early on, the first shot of the game did see Abada hits it right to Rake. By the way, Andrew Rake get his first start in this game. I thought he had decent first game, Andrew Rake. I don't think both of the goals that he conceded was on him whatsoever. Kalina then a pickpocket trying to dribble it out, and Bearable had a shot on the empty net, but it was cleared off the line by Melenda. And I'll tell you what, after the game, Kalina is gonna have to buy Melenda a dinner because yeah, again, how many times I've said this season, goalkeepers they need to stop being too cute and playing out of the back. It's something that we've seen throughout the season that I just don't understand. Then when goalkeepers decide to do that, just boot the ball upfield. There's no need to play it at the back and being cute because you don't get any benefit out of playing out of the back and being too cute. And there's even more risk that you get pickpocketed by the attacking team, and we saw exactly that. And again, Christian Kalina very very lucky. The fact that one didn't go in, or Bearable didn't put that one in. Kalina then tipped Leicester shots over as the Union was definitely the better team early on. They were trying to get the opening goal, and they're desperate to do so because of how bad of a run that this team has been. I think this is now 7 consecutive games that the Union have not got a win at home this year. But in the 32nd minute, Abada would hits one right to Rake before Hario hits one right to Kalina. Ajiman then miss a header on the doorstep of goal. Ajiman actually would ends up to have probably the best game he has in a couple of weeks. But yeah, this is definitely one that he wants to have back. So Sullivan did curls it wide from long range in the 45th minute as the chances were definitely coming for both of these teams. Both of them were pushing to get the opener. And then Rivaldo tried to do so, but he puts it high on the free kick. And we do head to halftime, scoreless between both of these teams. It wouldn't stay scoreless long in the second half, as in the 56th minute, Ajiman would score for Munin and Bender to give Charlotte a 1-0 lead. And then he tried to go for his second goal as he's trying to curl this one in, but it just went a little bit high from long range. But the momentum was definitely with Charlotte up to this point. They were definitely looking for another, and certainly Patrick Ajiman was feeling confident after getting a goal, and he decided to do it again in the 63rd minute, as this time he scored from Abada to give Charlotte a 2-0 lead. On the other end, Kalina would deny Sullivan from long range before he denied Sullivan again, this time from close in the 67. The Union was definitely pressing back, trying to get the opener. I mean, overall, this wasn't really a bad game for the Union. They had their moments in this game as well, but again, just not being clinical in terms of the finishing, and also Christian Kalina continued to have a really good season, despite the fact that I talked about that horror moment he almost had in the 4th minute. Bronico then hits one right to Rake before Rake then denied Bronico from close in the 74th. Teams were exchanging chances, as you kind of have a feeling this crucial next goal can really decide the game. Vargas would then hit it over from close before Abada would hits the side netting from close. Tavares would then look to try to finish it off for Charlotte, but he was denied by Rake. And then on the other end, McLean would hit one right to Kalina. And yeah, in the end, Charlotte with an impressive 2-0 win against a struggling Union side. The shots in this one, 18 shots for the 16 that the Union has. Both teams had 7 shots on goal, 6 shots off target for the 3 that the Union has, 6 shots that was blocked for the 5 that Charlotte has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Charlotte has, as Charlotte continue to improve in terms of the best position that they've ever been in their short times in MLS. Now up to 4th place in the standings, and I know this is still kind of early to discuss, even though we're halfway this season. Well, does Dean Smith maybe get some consideration for Coach of the Year? I mean, what a job he's been doing. I feel like Charlotte has been really flying under the radar lately, and I mentioned before they're really a dark horse team, a team that while they have their problems in terms of scoring goals, their defense is just absolutely locked down this season. I mean, they are one of the toughest teams to break down, and this is compared to last season when this team was having problems keeping the ball out of the back of the net, especially late in games. What a turnaround it's been for the Charlotte team, and again, Dean Smith maybe being consideration for Coach of the Year of how he's carrying this team. That again, a lot of people even said that this team was going to maybe be a bottom feeder, and yet he's definitely getting this team to be one of the better team and one of the dark horse team in the Eastern Conference. Unfortunately, you can't say that about the Union. Again, it's just it feels like it's continued to be bottom out for this Union side to a point where I think they might be thinking about blowing it up in the summer and maybe reset. And that this core that they've been keeping for the last couple of years, it's pretty much gone its course, and their title window might be slammed shut as a result of it. Now, moving on in terms of the next game is Chicago and Orlando City, and this is another one of those games where I would like to say that the scoreline didn't really indicate how this game has gone. Yes, Orlando did get a much needed win in this one at home. It's only their second home win this season, but I gotta say, Chicago, I thought they were the better team in this game despite the loss, but unfortunately, they weren't being clinical, mainly because yeah, Mason Steinhauer definitely played one of his best game, if not his best game in his career, and not to mention in defense, the Fire was very lackluster at times. Though that being said, they also gave up a couple of golazo go, and one of them came in the 4th minute as Facu Torres would score from Forholson and Ladero to give Orlando a 1-0 lead. And what a goal it made for Facu Torres after finally breaking the ice in the last game. You can clearly see the Compton is back in him. I mean, it's hard to believe he has just completely fallen off the map this season with his performance, but it seems like these last 2 games he's back to peak Facu Torres mode, and that is definitely great news for Orlando City. Kuipers did look to respond, but he was denied by Stadahai, and she gave up a rebound there, and Haile Selassie had a chance to bury it, but he couldn't do so. And then a penalty was given to Orlando as Aragoni would brought down Angulo in the box there, which allowed Luis Muriel a chance to slot it from the spot, and he does, and that made it 2-0 in favor of Orlando City. But then on the other end, the post would deny Gutierrez from close range, and then Gutierrez would hit one right to start high in the 26th minute. Again, it was a good response by the Fire. It feels like every time when Orlando score, the Fire has a couple of moments where they could have got one back and make it interesting, but instead they found themselves 3-0 down in the 29th minute as Angulo would make it 3-0 in this one. And again, Brady did make a good save here, but it just kind of fall right to the path of Angulo. So yeah, 3-0 after 29 minutes. Again, it just did not feel like it was a 3-0 game, and that the Chicago Fire, it seems like they're having one of those road games where we talk about where so even when the Fire plays wells on the road, it just they're always they always have some unlucky moments that kind of gone against them, and it seems like it seems like it's one of those games too for this Fire team. Haile Selassie then looked to respond, but it hits right to Stoudemire, and then he absolutely robbed Kuipers from point blank in the 42nd minute. I mean, Stoudemire was just kind of standing on his head at that time, and in a game where there were definitely a lot of chances in the first half, somehow Orlando City were 3-0 up against the Fire. In the second half, the Fire was on the front foot. They were creating a couple of good opportunity. Again, credit to this Fire team. They didn't give up. Anytime when a team is 3-0 down in a game, I wouldn't blame the Fire would just completely switch off and just kind of capitulate, but they didn't. They keep going. They were trying to make this interesting, and their reward was a penalty in the 51st minute, as it's actually Schlegel, the one that handballed this one in the box, which allowed Haile Selassie to score from the spot, and he does. I forgot to put PK there next to Haile Selassie name because that was from the spot. So yeah, that made it 3-1 in this one. You sense that maybe momentum is with the Fire, and you kind of sense that is this maybe one of those games where we see another Rio lead being blown, because we've seen it a couple of times, and this definitely had a recipe to do so with the way that Orlando themselves was being very vulnerable at the back. Though on the other end, Brady would deny Ladero on the free kick, but again, anytime when it seems like the Fire had some momentum, Orlando has a response, and they made it 4-1 here as Facu Torres would score another golazo in the 60th minute. Again, it's safe to say that Facu Torres has really found his stride in these last two games. Mueller did look to respond, but he was denied by Stoudemire. By the way, if Chris Mueller scored there, I wonder whether or not if he celebrate. I don't think he will celebrate, because I'm pretty sure Orlando City fans still love Chris Mueller, especially of all the years that he's been with the Lions. But it would be interesting to see if he does score against his former team, whether he celebrates. Well, actually, I probably think he won't celebrate. He'll probably just pick up the ball and go the other way, because it would be a 4-2 if he did score. Speaking of 4-2, eventually it would be 4-2 in the 64th minute, as Hugo Kuipers would make it 4-2 in this one. And again, that defense for Orlando City, it was non-existent in this game. And again, they're very lucky that they only conceded 2 goals. If it wasn't for Mason Stoudemire really standing on its heads at time in this game. Gutierrez then hits one right to Stoudemire before Stoudemire denied Kutsias from close. The momentum was all with the Fire. They were really pushing to try and set this one to a grandstand finish. Though Ojeda did put it over the bar after Brady kind of cleared this one right to Ojeda. So that was not a great moment there for Chris Brady. But in the end, Orlando, they did hold on to win 4-2 in this one. And again, the shots in this game, just to show you that this does not look like a game that ended with Orlando City with a comfortable 4-2 win. I mean, Chicago had more of the shots. 18 shots compared to 7 that Orlando has. 13 shots on goal compared to the 5 that Orlando has. Stoudemire had 11 saves in this game, which is one of the most we've seen so far this season. 4 shots off target for the 2 that Orlando has. Both of these teams didn't actually have a shot that was blocked. That's one of the rare things we usually see in an MLS game, where no shot is blocked by either team. And possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Orlando has in this game. And yeah, I know Orlando will say that this wasn't a perfect win for them, especially on the defensive end. Well, they'll absolutely take it. I mean, road wins this season, or home wins this season, has just been as rare as goals that they've scored this season at home. But they definitely had an outburst in this one, and we'll see whether or not if that can carry into future home games, because they absolutely need to win these home games if they want to get themselves in contention once again for the playoffs. It's good for them to do well on the road. They need to win some of these home games at Interco Stadium. And for the Fire, again, it was a very good game for them, but we've seen this before with the Fire, where they play well on the road, but they just don't get anything out of it, because it just happened to be they ran into a hot goalkeeper in Mason Stoudemire, and we'll see whether or not if they can bounce back in the next game. With that being said, I am now going to change boards and look at the last 4 games to finish up the review for match week number 21. So moving on, in the next game, we got the Red Bulls and Toronto FC. So this is a game that actually finished relatively late compared to the other game, because this game had a bit of a weather delay, and especially after just 10 minutes of this game, we go into a lightning delay, and the game didn't actually restart until 9:20 p.m. local time. But in the end, after all of this, the Red Bulls, they got a much needed win in this one against TFC, and I think the Red Bulls deserve it. I mean, it's been a rough week for the Red Bulls with the way that they actually have played well in all 3 of these games, and that they could have easily had a 9-point week if they could show their clinical finishing. And in this game, they definitely showed that against TFC. Now, early on, again, during that first 10 minutes, nothing really happened. But after the weather delay is over, that's when things really started to happen. Manuel would have the game's first shot, but he missed wide there before Owusu would hit one right to Mera. Gavron then denied Vanzier from close range because Vanzier is not allowed to score a goal lately. It's been a lively start since the delay, as both of these teams definitely came to play. Nealis would heads it wide from close range, and in the 29th minute, Elias Manuel would score from Ely to give the Red Bulls a 1-0 lead. Definitely a contention for goal of the week, because what a goal that is from Elias Manuel. Bernadeschi did look to respond, but he hits it right to Mira, and we do head to halftime with the Red Bulls leading 1-0. They didn't waste no time to make it 2-0, as Yanger would score his first career MLS goal from Carmona to make it 2-0 in this one, and also that came off a terrible turnover there from TFC. Turnover has once again started to become an issue once again for TFC, just like what we saw last season. And really, lately, this is starting to look like the Toronto FC team like we saw last season, and that's not good news for those TFC faithful to see that. Gavron then tipped Carmona shot from close range before he denied Edelman from close. It was all Red Bulls up to this point as they were pressing for a third. Token would then puts one wide from close before Amaya would puts it wide from long range. Flores would had a rare chance for TFC, but he heads it wide from close. But then in the 75th minute, Harper basically put this game all out of hand as he scored from Nealis there to make it 3-0 in favor of the Red Bulls. And yeah, that was the final score of this game. The shots in this one, 15 shots for the 5 that Toronto has, 2 shots on goal for the 7 that the Red Bulls had, 5 shots off target for the 2 that TFC had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 3 that the Red Bulls had, and possession-wise, 43% possession compared to 57% possession that TFC has in this game. And again, the Red Bulls they needed this one badly because it's just been pretty miserable at least in these last couple of games where they could have easily had three points in these last couple of games, and yet they only got a point out of it. But overall, still it's a positive 4 point week for them, and there's no doubt that their hope that eventually they are going to get some of their high end talent back, especially once the Euro concluded, or in the case, they are going to get Lewis Morgan back because Scotland basically got eliminated from the Euros yesterday. But that being said, moving on in the next match, um, and that of course is DC and the Houston Dynamo. So yeah, this game, at least in the first half, DC actually played relatively well, and then the second half happened, and I gotta say, yeah, that second half, DC pretty much just completely self destruct themselves. Now in the first half, Sevchenko would puts one right to Miller before Kudibietro hits one right to Clark. Herrera would then puts it high from long range. Such shots were 4-2 for Houston 10 minutes in, and it was actually been a lively start for both of these teams up to this point. Artur would then hits one right to Miller before Aliu had a shot that was tipped over by Miller. And again, I thought the Dynamo had some momentum. They were pressing for the opening goal. Tubbs would then miss it wide from close before a penalty was given to DC as Benteke was brought down by Artur. This game felt a little similar to the game that Dynamo play against Atlanta, where they actually play relatively well, but they really had nothing to show for, and it feels like this might be. And not to mention, when they were playing well, they eventually did give the equalizer for Atlanta after taking a 1-0 lead early. Unfortunately, they didn't have this luxury. They gave up a penalty here, so in comes Benteke, the ones that slots to or here comes Benteke, a chance to put away from the spot, and he does. So yeah, that gives DC a 1-0 lead. Home looked to make it number 2, but he puts it over, and we do head to halftime with DC leading 1-0. Again, things look very well for DC up to that point, and then as I mentioned before, yeah, that's why you got to play the last 45 minutes and finish up. And what's been the story this season for DC? They play well in period of time, and then they just kind of self-destruct and just can't get the job done. In the 48th minute, Clark would deny Benteke from close range before a penalty was given to Houston. They said that this is actually the first penalty that the Dynamo has had, which is hard to believe considering last season they were giving a lot of penalties last year. But this is the first one as Agaboni would handball this one in the box. Agaboni would actually get a yellow card in this one. That would actually play a pivotal role late in this one. But the question is that who's going to step up from the spot? I mean, you would think it's Iman Bassi who is the designated penalty taker, but no, it's actually Ferreira, the one that takes the penalty. Bassi was in this game, so I was kind of surprised that Bassi did not take this and that he gave it to Seba Ferreira here. I guess maybe that's just to give him some confidence because Seba Ferreira has he's been kind of been on the doghouse of this Dynamo team for the past couple of seasons. But to his credit, he scored here to give the Dynamo the equalizer, and then just 2 minutes later, he scored again. So that made it 2-1 in favor of the Dynamo, and yeah, just some really sloppy defending there from DC that cost the second goal for Houston. Benteke then looked to answer, but he missed that one high. And then in the 66th minute, yeah, Christian Benteke just lost his cool here, and we've seen this before over his career where he has at times become a little bit of a hot head, and this cost him too. He gets two yellow cards in a span of just a couple of seconds. First for that foul on Dorsey, that little shove. Obviously, he was not happy about that, but I think if you look back on the replay, yeah, that was definitely a foul. And then, of course, the second one was just him screaming at the referee. And yeah, again, you just can't do that, especially after you got a yellow card because of the foul. So that's two yellow card. Benteke was off. In the 86th minute, Fiera would complete his hat trick as he scored from Smith and Stera to make it 3-1 up to this point. And to add insult to injury, remember the only yellow card that he got early in this game after he handballed in the box and gifted the Dynamo a chance to tie this game up. Well, he would get his second yellow card in this play, and yeah, DC were down to 9 men up to this point, and that allowed Gabe Segal scoring his first goal for the Houston Dynamo as he scored from Steris to make it 4-1 in this one, and then it could have been 5-1 if the post didn't deny Autor his chance there. It was clear that DC basically gave up after the second yellow or the second red card happened. In fact, you could argue they gave up after Benteke got that red card, and the fans make sure they know it too, because the boos were definitely ringing down at Audi Field. That's one of the loudest I've heard the boos in during the game, because in the end, the Dynamo with an impressive 4-1 win in this one. The shots in this one, 16 shots committed, 9 that DC had, 3 shots off target for the 8 that Houston has, 3 shots off target for the 4 that DC had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 3 that Houston has. And possession-wise, it's actually dead even at 50% for both of these teams. As again, the Dynamo continue to be very impressive. And keep in mind, they are going to get their new DP number 9 in Ezekiel Ponce in just a bit. So this team can be even more dangerous, as we have already seen. But for DC, again, it has just kind of fallen apart in these last couple of games. It's been a rough patch for Troy Lesesne team. I mean, I mentioned a couple of weeks of how them having in one of the worst games for Troy Lesesne's reign with DC. It's just gotten worse and worse. It's almost like they're back in that wooden spoon kind of team that we saw from last season as well. Now, moving on, in the last, or not in the last game, in the second to last game, we're almost at the last game. So this game was also pretty lopsided. In fact, this game, I think, between the LAFC versus the San Jose Earthquakes game, I would say that this game was another game where it was just man against boys. I mean, it was clear who was the better team in this one, and it was pretty clear that, even though I know at times MLS can be an unpredictable league, you do still get one of these games where one of the best team in the league face against a team that is in turmoil right now in Sporting KC, and in the end, the team that has the best quality gets the win. Now, early on, the first shot of the game did see Rossi puts it wide before Agata actually went in on goal here, and you would expect him to score there, consider he looked like he found his goal scoring form in the last game. No, he missed that one wide there. So Tuchel would then miss wide from close in the 13th minute before Arston would puts it wide from close as the crew was starting to dominate this game. They were pressing for the opener. Rossi would puts it over from close range before in the 32nd minute. Guess who? Tuchel would score. He scored from Arston and Rossi to give the crew a 1-0 lead. Morris then looked to get another, but he was denied by post-game from long range. Imagine if Aiden Morris in his final game as a Columbus Crew player would have scored. What a, a, um, a storybook ending that would be if that goal, of course, went in. But in the third minute of stoppage time, or actually in the first minute of stoppage time, post game would deny Cucho from close range, but he couldn't stop this shot from Cucho just 2 minutes later as he would score again. Cucho from Morris and Nagby to give Columbus a 2-0 lead. And yeah, so Morris, even though he didn't get on the score sheet, at least in his final game as a Crew player, getting on the assist chart, and we do head to halftime with Columbus leading 2-0. In the second half, pretty much the same thing. Ramirez had a shot that was deflected and goes wide before post-game denied Cucho as the flag went up. It was just man against boys. Again, this game looked very similar to the game what we saw between LAFC and the Quakes, just the golfing quality was clearly there in this game. But in the 60th minute, oh god, I can't even. Oh yeah, we had an emotional kind of curtain call there for Aiden Morris, of course, getting subbed off in this one. And again, this most likely is going to be his last game as a Columbus Crew player, moving on to Middlesbrough in the summer transfer window. But in the 66th minute, Christian Ramirez will make it 3-0 as he scored here to make it 3-0 here. Just some zero. There's no defending whatsoever from Sporting KC. Again, these last couple of games, you can clearly see this bad run has not only tarnished the Sporting KC side, but it's getting to a point where this defense just give up because of how bad it is, and that's just a sign to show when you're a team that is having a very bad season, especially a very bad run like Sporting KC has had. In the 71st minute, Cucho would score his hat trick here, and what a way to score a hat trick by scoring on the free kick, pretty much putting an exclamation mark to Columbus dominating game against Sporting KC, and they almost made it 5, but Matan puts one right to Polskam in the 76th minute. I gotta feel bad for John Polskam up to this point because he actually makes some big save in this one to at least keep this one close, because if he didn't, this game would have been very similar to the LAFC Quakes game that we talked about yesterday. Again, Sporting KC just they don't look like they want to be there. I mean, it just felt like they just completely no show in this game whatsoever and just kind of lie down from the minute go. Rodriguez, though, did puts it wide from long range, and that's Memo Rodriguez, the one that puts it wide on a rare opportunity for Sporting KC. In fact, that actually was only the third shot that Sporting KC has, and that would be the last shot that it would get in this game, as in the end, just a dominant performance. One of the rare time where you see a team just completely mop the floor against their opposition and walk away with a comfortable clean sheet. The shots in this one, 13 shots for the 3 that Sporting KC had. No shots on goal for the 8 that Columbus had. 3 shots off target for the 2 that Sporting KC had. 1 shot that was blocked for the 2 that Columbus had. And possession-wise, 66% possession compared to 34% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. Again, Sporting KC just going through the motion. Like, between them and the Quakes, they're pretty much battling out of who can actually do worse and just clearly don't show up every single week. And that there should be a very interesting battle in terms of the Anthony Precourt Memorial Cup, though I'm pretty sure Sporting KC will say that they might have a claim. It's considered the Quakes, of course, did fire their head coach today, and it feels like maybe they'll get a new interim head coach boost to get them out of the mud, and Sporting KC could find themselves in the wooden spot uh, in the coming weeks, because we all know that it feels like the front office is refusing to fire Peter Vermees, even though pretty much almost the entire Sporting KC fan base demand Vermees to hand in his head coaching duties. Now, moving on in the next match, and I would also say that this Vermees, of course, want to be fought, or at least Sporting KC fans want Vermees to be fired. Seems very similar to what we see with Ben Olsen doing his last full of season, really his last season with DC, where every DC fans were demanding Olsen to be fired, and eventually that would happen, and we shall see whether it will happen for Sporting KC as well. But moving on into the final game on this board is New England and FC Cincinnati, and how about the Revs? 4 wins now in a row ever since well, I wouldn't say ever since that off the field problem that they had. This was actually before when they started this 4-game winning streak. But this Revs team, I mean, remember how everybody's saying Caleb Porter was a dead man walking? Now all of a sudden it feels like his job is completely safe. Not much really happened, at least in the first 10 minutes. Heel would put a free kick into the Bailey, and also it's not surprised that New England maybe is starting to play much better, consider they're getting some of their best player back in these last couple of games, and they definitely look like they're playing up to potential as a result of that. Valenzuela would then puts it wide from long range before Oriano puts it wide from close, as Cincy definitely has gained some steam early on. They were looking for the opener, but instead it's New England, the one that gets the opener. It's Veroni scoring from heel to give the Revs a 1-0 lead. Oriano did look to respond, but he missed wide there before Ivasic denied Wobodo from long range, as Cincy was pressing back, trying to get the equalizer this time. But every time when Cincy looked like they had a chance to get the equalizer, New England finds an answer. It's Veroni. He scored from Boateng and heel, and it's no surprise that New England has started playing well, that when Giacomo Veroni is scoring goals. I mean, this has been a season that it's been a rough year for Veroni, and there's very few games that he, of course, have showed up. But now that this team is playing better, and especially now Veroni getting on the score sheet hopefully in a regular pace. Who knows? New England might be having a very similar season to what we saw with Sporting KC last year, where for majority of the season they were in the bottom of the standings, and then they finally found their spark, and now all of a sudden they're only 2 points out of the playoff spot, and they have a couple of games in hand over the teams up above them as well. In the 45th minute, and again, I also said it was clown nine for New England, and just also some non-existent defending from Cincy. Cincy is clearly missing some of their best defender the last couple of games because of Copa America, and also not to mention injuries as well. I mean, that backline has just been completely decimated in these last couple of games. But we do head to halftime with the score 2-0 in favor of New England. Oh, and that was before when Buka had a chance from long range, but he puts that one wide in the 45th minute, and then we head to halftime with New England leading 2-0. In the second half, it looked like it was 2-1 when Yamil Assad put the ball into the back net. Unfortunately, the flag did not agree with him there, so the goal didn't count. Since he was once again on the front foot, they were pressing to get one back. Oriano would put it wide from the free kick, but then the 65th minute, this time it counts, as Yamil Assad would get on the score sheet from Lucho Acosta to make it 2-1, and you're just thinking, well, maybe momentum is with Cincinnati, right? Well, then the red card happened in the 69th minute, as Wobodo, of course, gets a second yellow card here. That was just an absolute momentum killer for Cincinnati because, again, you now got one back. You look like you have the momentum, and then now you find yourself down to 10 men. But Boateng would then puts one right to Salatano before Salatano push away a shot from Izmir. Acosta then puts it wide from close range, as Cincy was definitely pressing hard to get the equalizer. And the Revs, again, they were just clinging on to dear life late in this game. Ivicic then denied Acosta from close in the 5th minute of stoppage time, as Acosta was trying to go beast mode again like he did in the last game. But we or actually in the end it ends with New England getting a big 2-1 win. Again, this is also a statement win too, because again, this Revs team, who would have thought that a couple of weeks ago with all the off the field drama that they had, and it looked like Caleb Porter was a dead man walking, that somehow Caleb Porter is still alive, and that he's still the head coach of this New England Revolution side, and that this team are in the recipient of winning 4 in a row, and not only have got themselves back into playoff contention, well, they are charging up the standings. And again, they do have a couple of games in hand over the team above them, and if they can keep winning, they not only will pass those teams, but they can actually get pretty high up in the standings and back to where they're what we thought that New England could be this season, which is a team that could definitely challenge for the top 4 spot in the Eastern Conference. But in terms of the shots in this one, 21 shots for the 10 that New England has, 5 shots on goal for the 4 that Cincinnati has, 7 shots off target for the 2 that New England has, 2 shots as blocked for the 7 that Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to the 44% possession that New England has. And it wasn't really a bad game for Cincinnati in this one, besides the fact that, yeah, they desperately are hoping for some defensive help, especially in the summer transfer window, because, again, they're just basically desolated because of injuries and also international call-ups, especially with the Copa America that is going on. But in the end, all good teams always have these kind of game where they just couldn't quite finish, and I just think Cincinnati would be okay. It's just a blip. You usually see good teams have these kind of moment too. But what's kind of frustrating for Cincinnati was that this was a chance for them to go ahead of Miami, and you can say that this was actually the game in hand that they have against Inter Miami, because Inter Miami actually got the bye week sweepstake this week, and they didn't take advantage of that. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of my review for match week number 21. As always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these games? Obviously, we got no midweek action this week, but there's going to be weekend action, and then we will have some midweek games too, because it's the 4th of July. I wouldn't say the 4th of July weekend, because the 4th of July is on Thursday, but that also means that we're going to have some midweek games on the 3rd and also on the 4th as well. So definitely I'll be watching those games closely and doing a review. I won't do a review on the 4th of July, though, if you're asking, and you probably know why, because there's no way I'm doing a review when there's fireworks basically shooting off outside my house. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.